I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we are diving into the captivating world of The Rubber Room. It is a novel written by author Ivan Bosanko. It is set in the transformative 1950s. The book follows the story of KateLynn McCray as she faces change, commitment, and challenge amidst a society on the brink of enlightenment, all while uncovering the darkest secret of the railroad industry. We are delighted to have Ivan on the spotlight today. We thank the team at Authors Reputation Press for helping us put him in the spotlight today, and ask viewers like you to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel. Ivan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Logan. Go ahead with the interview. I'm ready.
All right, sir. Well, what was your inspiration behind writing The Rubber Room? Why did you write it?
Several. I had several reasons. My older brother was retiring from the Santa Fe Railroad after their merger, and he cleaned out his file, and I was there at the retirement party, and I noticed there was an article in there about a family in the San Francisco area who had been given the rubber room treatment. And well, as it happened, I was in that area, so I contacted the author, and he and I sat down and we went through situation by situation. He says, Ivan, please novelize this actual happening, and it would be well worth your time. And that's what I did.
Absolutely. Now, for the folks at home who haven't read it, what is a rubber room when you talk about the railroad and the rubber room?
Okay, the railroad for over 100 years had a little system which was finally brought out of the closet by my book, where they had mistreated people that they wanted to get rid of, but they would not fire them. They would put them out on a siding and then hire people to take care of them so they would never return, and therefore the problem was solved. But in their view, however, it was not solved at all. It just prolonged and highlighted the problem.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, in your book, you write about the rubber room, you write about the railroad, and you also write the story of KateLynn McCray. Tell us a little bit about her and why you developed her as a character. Is she based on somebody in real life?
Yes. KateLynn McCray is a composite of several people I have known, one personally who was Irish and came over through had immigration parents, and they were very strict Catholic people, and I chose that kind of background purposely because I wanted to get into the three C's: change, control, and commitment and conflict, which is four. But nevertheless, that provided a great background, and these people do not change their views. They the Irish Catholics by nature are last to accept change. They do not belong. Yet my book is all about change, and I thought, what a combination! People who don't change into a book that does change.
Exactly, exactly. Yep. As an Irish Catholic man, I can tell you that is true. We're pretty dogged. We have a lot of determination, and I don't think we necessarily embrace change too easily. But in the 1950s, society was changing and people needed to change. And so
Yes,
that makes an interesting conflict there, right?
yes, there was a very interesting conflict. You have credit cards now becoming apparent. Their credit card companies made a big push in the early 1950s about change. And the Catholics, Irish Catholics in particular, did not believe in that. You either rolled up your sleeves, went to work, and saved till you had enough money to do or buy whatever you wanted to do, whatever was going on. So therefore, you have a natural conflict. You have people who are against change, people who are hardworking, thrifty, and are willing to pay only for what they have saved for. So what a natural to make a story about the rubber room, which means their lives were bounced around just as much as the railroad.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, tell us a little bit more about the rubber room. Were people actually beaten? in order to get them to quit their jobs? Or tell us a little bit about how that worked.
Well, okay. From the railroad point of view, that they had some people who they wanted to get rid of, but the unions were so strong in those days that they could not fire them without just cause. So, because of that, they would place them in a siding in a car and then hire somebody to take care of the job and then say, oh, did you know somebody didn't report back to work? Now we have reason to fire them.
Amazing, amazing. So,
And they did that. And not only just one railroad, but almost every railroad had a past history of some type of rubber room treatment. So I took that same idea and that same concept and said, hey, why not write a story about an actual couple? And that's what I did.
Yep. Yep. Tell the folks at home a little bit about the actual story. You've got KateLynn, you've got the rubber room and the railroad as a backdrop, but what is the story that she is involved in?
It's about the daughter of this strict Irish Catholic family being involved with a non-Catholic, and this non-Catholic winds up being her boyfriend, and later on her fiance, and then he gets drafted just before the wedding date, and so they go out on their own honeymoon, and they take their vows before God. And these vows are so strong within the Catholics that those must be looked up to and they must be obeyed. And that is the basis for the rubber room itself, and hence the name.
Absolutely, absolutely. Society was changing in the 1950s. It was going to change even more dramatically in the 1960s, as morals changed and society values changed. Have you thought about working on that aspect of it as well?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
I incorporated change in there as part of the binding story between the strict Catholic lady in there, the young lady, and the non-Catholic. That in itself is quite a feature, because he must adjust. She will not. She cannot by nature and by tradition. So therefore, you've got a terrific background for non-Catholics versus Catholic, and yet because of the love aspect, it is really spellbinding.
Absolutely. Yep. It is a great book, a strong book for sure. Is this your first book? It's pretty amazing.
No, it's
okay.
my fifth. It's my fifth.
Oh, okay.
My background is I was a tech writer, aerospace. I have an engineering background, and I use that tech writing background to do my books. I'm a history buff, and because of that, it worked out great. The tech background worked into the history, which worked into the real novel.
Yep. Did you, is this your first novel, or were the other 5 books also fiction?
The other 5 were also novels.
Also novels. Okay, so tell us about what your first book was called.
My first book was called The Sea of Grain. My mother was a very strict Quaker, and my dad was again, there's that conflict again.
Yes.
My dad was non-Catholic or non-Quaker
Right.
in this case. So I called it The Sea of Grain, and it was about their change. He had to make changes in order to marry into the Quaker religion,
Right.
which he accepted grudgingly. My dad was an outdoor man by nature. My mother was a Quaker school teacher, so you could imagine the conflict there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I used that same basis, Logan, to incorporate in this situation here with KateLynn and with Jerry.
Yeah, absolutely. A strict religious, rigid upbringing versus, changing times and changing morals. Yeah, absolutely. How long did it take you to write the book?
Okay, the first one or
this one, Rubber Room?
The Rubber Room took me about 6 months.
Okay. And did you have to do any special research? I know you had the conversation. Tell me about your research.
I did a lot of research. Again, as I pointed out, I went to that retirement party for my older brother, who was a railroad official. And then I contacted the guy that wrote these articles, and he and I spent about almost a week together. I did in order to get a complete picture of the research, both from the railroad standpoint and then from his series of articles for the San Francisco paper. I found that to be the best move I ever made.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And when you finished the book, who's the first person you had read it?
My wife.
Okay. And what was her input? What were her comments?
She says, "You've got it right." She says, Ivan, I can see your mother and father in this all over again. And I said, yes, but I put a new twist into it. And I had these people, had to deliberate their lives. They had to discover each other. They had to fall in love. They had all of the aspects that every young married couple had in those days.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it must have been fun on some levels, revisiting your past and putting it down.
It was.
Yeah.
In a way, it was satisfying and also invigorating and ingratiating.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you have any more writing planned?
Pardon?
Do you have another book in mind? Are you thinking about writing anything else?
Well, yes, I have another version of the Rubber Room, which has been revised, and I have an agent that was currently working on it, and there's also a chance for a movie prospect out of it.
That's wonderful. Now, if you were to cast somebody to play the part of KateLynn, who would that be?
Oh gosh, it would be so hard. You'd have to come up with somebody who was feisty, yet very personal.
Yeah.
Somebody who could play a part. In today's lineup of stars, I would be hard for us to pick the right one.
Yeah.
Somebody else would have to do that.
Yeah, it would be tough. I was thinking maybe a Nicole Kidman, but she'd have to be a lot younger, I think.
Yes, right. Nicole would fit it all right. Yeah. She has that kind of a disposition, but because of the age situation, that would be a problem. Yep,
we'd have to find a younger actress to play the part, indeed.
Right,
That's great. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying your writing. I'm sure it's a rewarding pursuit for you to be able to put down your thoughts and feelings and your stories.
I've been writing for almost 60 years.
Yeah, well, it shows. Your writing is very, very gripping, very, very powerful. I enjoyed the book very, very much. Now, I've always also found it interesting about the railroad, about how hard they treat people who trespass on their property. That's another deep, dark secret of the railroad. They tend to beat up the people who hitch a train or are caught camping on their grounds. The railroad police can be quite fierce.
Yes, they would be. You are so correct about that.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Well, the name of the book is The Rubber Room. It is a wonderful read. It is written by Ivan Bosanko. It captures a captivating world set in the 1950s. It follows the story of KateLynn McCray as she faces those 3 C's: change, commitment, and challenge. And it's happening during a time of change in society as well. All the while, Ivan works hard and succeeds in uncovering the darkest secrets of the railroad industry. Ivan, thank you so much for joining us here today. Anything you'd like to leave our viewers with?
Again, I think it fits today's situation in that today's people are in the midst of change. Again, another type of change. However, this would be great background for them to understand how change can accomplish things. Change can also undo things, and change can also complete your life.
Absolutely. Yep. Change is the only constant in life, so you better learn to embrace it, right?
Yes, you're so right again.
Yep. All right, Ivan, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks again, Logan. I appreciate your time.
The pleasure is mine. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.